Baruchim Abayim B'Shem Hashem. B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah Moses Boston. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's shir from Rabbi Dovid Goldwasser Shlita. I'd like to give a big yeshikoyach to the sponsors of tonight's shir. Tonight's shir is learned Leila Nishmas, one of the board members of Irgun Shir Torah, who supported Irgun Shir Torah for many, many years. Rabbi Chaim, Rabbi Pinchas, Rabbi Shalom Gross. The outside was this week. I'd like to give a big yeshikoyach to the Kimmel family for sponsoring tonight's shir. Leila Nishmas, Leisha Chaim, Meira, Bas Rabbi Yitzchok, Ola Shalom, Yortat Zainov, Tenishmos Tzur B'Tzor Chaim. I'd like to give a shakir to the Kalish family for the support of tonight's shir. Leila Nishmas, Rabbi Yaakov Yehuda, Ben Menachem Mendel, Ola Shalom, Yortat Hey Ov, Tenishmos Tzur B'Tzor Chaim. To have the great schus of sponsoring a shir, call Irgun Shir Torah at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Rabbi said Irgun Shir Torah's annual dinner is coming up in just a few weeks. There's literature on the tables. The opportunity to put an ad in honor of one of the Rabbanim whose shiurim we've enjoyed, or for other reasons to support Irgun Shir Torah and have a chelik in the Abatzas HaTorah of Irgun Shir Torah throughout the year. Please take use of this annual opportunity. Tonight we have the cover to have with us once again Rabbi Dovid Goldwasser Shlita, Rav Khal Bnei Yitzchok, to speak on the important topic of Mechila. It's my cover to call Rav Goldwasser for tonight's Rosh.
Yasher Koyach Rav Deutsch. Good evening, Birshus, Irgun Shir Torah, Rav Bald Shlita, and all that they do throughout the entire world. They asked Rav Steinman, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, what could be done to help in the Golus? What could be done to lighten the Golus, to get us out from the Ikvis of the Mechila? Rav Steinman said one thing: Torah, learn Torah, be moisiv shiurim. And if a person will do that, 100% it will help. He also added to do chesed. The amount of shiurim that Irgun Shir Torah sponsors throughout the year is mind-boggling. Just what they do in the summertime deserves our attention and our support. Whoever will donate, whoever will dig deeper in order to give and to allow Irgun Shir Torah to do their work throughout the world, Havadit will be a schus la'olam for everything good, beruchnius u'begashmius. Birshus Boston Rebbe Shlita. This evening we have a very interesting topic. It's a good inyan for the 9 days especially, because one of the sibus HaChorban, one of the reasons for the Chorban Beis HaMikdash is the fact that Khal Yisrael were not mevater. Khal Yisrael were not maver al midaisov. They didn't give up. They stood very strong and said, I'm not forgiving. I'm not going to look over the averos of another person, what they did for me. And unfortunately, because of that, Chorban Beis HaMikdash resulted sinas chinam. A lot of machloikis in the world is just sinas chinam. The reason is because a person has inside different feelings, different emotions. They could go both ways. A person could see someone and pour out their ava for no reason. Unfortunately, it says in Likutei Moharan, sometimes a person will walk in the door and for no good reason, the individual will start to dislike them even stronger than they don't even know the person. They have no idea who they are. But there's something about them that they just don't like. The way they walked in, the way that they stood, the way that they picked up their sitter, the way that they put somebody else's sitter to the side. All of a sudden, they get upset. So it's interesting that the emotion that a person has to make shalom can be developed. A person can be ba'ava with everybody. The Heilige Skelena Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh Shetor Livrocha, the great Skelena Rebbe, who was so great. So it's interesting, he had absolutely no machloikus within, none. Anybody that was zoichet to see him, anyone that was zoichet to be with him. Originally he was in Crown Heights and then moved, but he was an amazing, amazing person. The biggest Indian, he was an Ish Shalom. He was always at peace with everyone. So anybody that tries to be an Ish Shalom, it doesn't always work out. Somebody back in the old country in Romania started up with him, a machloikis. More than that, they took him to a din Torah. To take the Sklener Rebbe to a din Torah, it's beyond my imagination how a person could do it, but he did. The only problem is the Botei Din in where they were at in Romania. Forget about it. You're going to take the Sklener Rebbe. You're losing. Before you walk in, you lost. So they decided that they would go to a city far away, and they'd have the din Torah in that city against the Heilige Sklener Rebbe. So the one who was on the other side needed to get information, important information to the Beis Din. But he could not trust anybody in the local city because everybody was on the side of the Sklener Rebbe. He could not find any shliach to take the information to the Beis Din. Finally, he decided there's only one person he could trust, his opponent, the Sklener Rebbe. So he gave the Sklener Rebbe the portfolio with the information against him, knowing that the Sklener Rebbe would never even wonder what was inside. That's the level that a person has to get to. Bakei shalom v'rodfeu. So the Mefarshim say a lot of mitzvahs a person has to wonder them. But just got a call from Toronto. There's a summer camp. So there's a person that has to be in the summer camp, but there's no minyan during the week. So he asks the question, there's an hour and a quarter drive away where he could get a minyan. Is he mechuyev to go Shachris, Mincha, Mariv, or all three? How far does a person have to go to be Mekayim Mitzvah? Bakei Shalom v'Rodfeu. In order to seek out the peace, Rodfeu, you have to travel to the ends of the earth in order to try to make some type of peace between people. It's not such a mitzias that we're in machlokas, I'm going to fight with him. Oh, I don't get along with that person. There isn't such a mitzias in Khal Yisrael. Avas Yisrael, for everybody. No matter who, no matter where. I have to have Ava for the individual. What happens if I have something in little machlokas that day? I have to clear it up by night. When I say Kriya Shema Shalamita, when I say it, and I'm misvada, I'm moichel to everybody in the world. So a Yid asked me, listen, I'm moichel everybody, but there's one guy, I'm not moichel him. So I have two choices I could do, Rebbe. I said, yes, what would you like? He says, either I could just skip it and not be moichel anybody, and therefore, or I could say, Hari ani moichel lechol chutz mi Menachem. Just put his name in, or his mother's name, his father's name, whatever you'll tell me to put in, and I'll write it. No, it is 100% wrong. A person cannot say, I have somebody who I don't get along with. A person has to try to say, everybody in this world I am going to be good with, no matter what it takes. You want to make peace, sometimes you got to take a few steps back. You have to swallow it, have to swallow your pride. So the person insulted you. So what? You got a tremendous schus by the person insulting you. We're going to see a fascinating tshuva from Agoin Rebel Yoshev, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh Otar Livrocha. We just passed over his yard site. Schlusa Yogen Elena Valko Beis Yisrael. So this is an interesting thing. It's the old Shaila. I get it myself, Mitzalang Yoren, before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Somebody said Lashon Hara and another person. Lashon Hara. We all have to work on it every day. There's a wondrous sefer that came out from Eretz Yisrael, from Mishmeres HaShalom, on Shmiras HaLashon. Every day, you can take a look. Maybe you can learn a page from it or 2 pages. It's an unbelievable thing, and it has a current story, a modern-day story that complements whatever the shir is about. All right, so person said Lashon Hara, and now he wants to go to be Mevakesh Slicha. He said Lashon Hara, and the guy, he wants to go over to him and say, listen, will you forgive me? The only thing is, he doesn't know, does he have to tell him what he did? I said Lashon Hara. I said to him, I said to somebody, or got him, whatever, the person's not truthful, whatever he said about him. So he goes to Rabbi Yoshev, and he says, let me ask you a question. Do I have to tell him? I said Lashon Hara on him. I could just walk over to him and say, listen, you moichel me, we're good friends. Be moichel me. They'll be moichel. Fascinating tshuva in the Chashukei Chemed is, a good time to get somebody is when they're a chassan, or for the ladies a kala. The chassan, You go to the chasana, you did something against that guy, you show up at the chasana, everyone can go to a chasana, and you go right over before by the chasana tish, hi, shalom, and he hugs you, and he kisses you, even you're not good with him. So that's a shaila, is that considered mechila? The fact that he hugged me. I didn't come right out and tell him I did something, I didn't come right out and ask him mechila, but he hugged me, is that a good enough siman? It comes out lahalocha? No. It's bishas chimum. It's when everybody has warm feelings and everybody is makabel everybody else, but it's not good enough. A person has to ask mechila. So he asks a question to Rabbi Yoshev. Does he have to say what he did? Does he have to say, I spoke lashon hara about you, and this is what I said? Very interesting. Hagoin Rabbi Yoshev, where many times we would say not to, because why? Why tell the guy what you said? He'll feel worse. He'll know what you said. The worst thing in the world is when somebody says something about another person and we find out about it. Hagoin Rabbi Yoshev says, Zechus gedoylohi sheyishma cherpasoy v'yislach keroylo. It's a zechus gadol that the person should hear. You said lashon hara about me. What'd you say? And the person tells you, you say, I'm moichel. Schuz gadol. That was Rabbi Yoshev's answer. If the individual is on the level, they should do it. They should say whatever it was, and they will receive mechila for it. That's an unbelievable thing. It doesn't mean that a person has to be a malach. Of course, everything hurts a little bit, no matter how strong a person is. It does hurt that somebody will say something about another. But im kol zeh, like Hagoin Rebbe Chonin Wasserman, Zechet Tzadik Livrach Hashem Yinkon Domav. Just like Rebbe Chonin said that when somebody insults us, when somebody's not nice to us, don't forget it's not them. It's not them. Min HaShamayim, they want to give us a little correction. They want to put us in the straight and narrow path. So Min HaShamayim, somebody starts up. Is it that person? No, they're not what I have to worry about. I have to be able to correct my deeds, to be mesaken all my masim. And then once I do that, then everything will be okay. And eventually the person will be good. Now, you can say, most people don't have problems. Most people don't have any difficulty. I do. And I'm bitter because of it. Tzaddikim don't have it. Not so. Hagoin, Reb Chatzkel Levenstein, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, Reb Chatzkel had someone that bothered him night and day, and he couldn't figure it out. Finally, it came to be one point that he was okay, and he left it, and everything was good, and the person didn't bother him anymore. Chacham Ovadia Yosef, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, Schuso Yogen Olenu, had somebody in the old country that used to bother him, but not stum bother him, chepper him physically. One time he followed him to Eretz Yisrael. After Chacham Ovadia went to Eretz Yisrael, the guy followed him. He pulled a gun on him. Chacham Ovadia said, this time, my friend, you went too far. I won't tell you what happened at the end, but who are you starting with? So we should know, tzaddikim, noshim tzidkaniyos, everybody sometimes has someone, and the big avoida that a person has to have is in order to be moichel on their insult, to let it bounce off them. Rabbi Avigdor Miller, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh V'Tor Livrocha, once said, you have to have a thick skin. When somebody insults you, let it bounce off. When someone gives you a big compliment, don't take it in and start to go. At that time, be careful. You shouldn't become, too proud or arrogant by it. But the thinking is that each and every person has to be moichel. Moichel, a husband, a wife, moichel. There are a lot of things that happen for no good reason. A Maisa Sotan comes in. Take a look at Rabbi Meir. Take a look what happened Erev Shabbos in the same house they came down. Do you think it just happened in the times of the Talmud? It doesn't happen now. You think the Sotan doesn't come in and make himself comfortable somewhere, and then there's repeat arguments, repeat machloikis that comes out. You think that just stam. No, that guy doesn't know how to get along with me. She don't know how to. My wife, it's a training. Look at the house she came from. Me, I come from Yichus. You know where I come from? We're Sholem Machers. They should have called us Sholem Mach. Not so. If we see in the Gemara that there had to be a tikkun because the Satan entered into the house, Kal v'chomer, uben b'no shel kal v'chomer. In our generation, you can imagine how many different times that machlokas will break out. Father and son, mother and daughter. How many times, chas v'sholem, there's a machlokas that gets out of hand for no reason. For no reason. It could be over something simple. Now, how do we view it? Maral says an interesting thing. This is my son. My son, I want him to be just like me. He should go to my yeshiva. He should go to my shir. He should have my... What happens? My son's a little bit different. What happens? My daughter's a little bit different. L'chaim u'l'shalom. It's beautiful. It's unreal. They're developing in their own way. Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchok, Elokei Yaakov. The Baal Shem HaKadosh says, why not just say Elokei Abraham, Yitzchok, and Yaakov? Why not? Says the Heilige Baal Shem, the reason is because each one did their own avodah. Each one did their own derech, their mahalach in avodas Hashem. One was not like the other. Because of that, it's Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchok, Elokei Yaakov. And the same thing is in avodas HaKadosh. The Maharal says Ben. The son is a son of the father. The father is primary. The son is the secondary. Beis Nun is the name for a son. Beis Nun. Beis, it means that he's a son of his father. He is like him. Nun, he is an independent koyach. He is a koyach unto himself. 2 letters in the Aleph base, everyone knows the Torah. 2 letters don't have a shidduch. Hey and Nun. Every other letter has a shidduch. You want to get 10, you get the Beis and you get the Ches. You get the Gimel, you get the Zion. Everyone, except for the Hey. The only thing you can put the Hey together with in order to get 10, Yud, is another Hey. Same thing with Nun. The Lamed you can put together with the Ayin. The Pei you can put together. Everyone has a shidduch except for the Nun. The only thing you can put the Nun together with to get 100 is another Nun. So the son is the Nun. The Nun means he has his own independent koiches. There are certain things that we have that we are independent. And it's a fascinating idea that there can be sometimes a father and a son that will not be that will be different. Hagoin Rebbe Chanan was very, very. If you take a look, very serious. One time he went to a chasana. So there was a batchen. Batchanim are unbelievable. Batchanim can also be ma'orer tremendous feelings and regesh. I find myself, I go to a simcha and they have the right batchen. The batchen can be a Baal Musar like I never heard in my life. Unreal. Then on the other hand, you have some batchanim, so it comes time for a little bit of simcha and the jokes start. So it happened to be a batchen in the time of Rebbe Chanan, and the batchen was going a little bit, everybody was rolling, right? Everyone was a little bit laughing too much. Rebbe Chanan sent a shliach to tell the batchen, tone it down a little bit, tone it down. On the other hand, Reb Simcha, my Rebbe, Reb Simcha Wasserman, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh Otor Livrocha, you hardly caught him without a smile. Every picture that you see of him, Kemat every picture, he is smiling. He is smiling. And one time when they asked him, just a little glimpse of a gadol, the Rebbitzin was coming down the stairs, wasn't too far away from here in the Eisner house. And Reb Simcha lit up such a smile. So Dr. Eisner asked him, why are you smiling? He says, my Rebbitzin's coming into the room, and she has tremendous helikite, and I have great simcha just to see her. That's what a person should know. But Reb Simcha and Reb Elchanan, there was a slightly different comportment. Did Reb Simcha write over all the shurim, Kovit shurim? Did he write the Ikvus and Mashiach? Yes. However, the comportment was a little bit different. Everybody has their own tchunas hanefesh. Everyone. So does my son have to be exactly like me? Well, maybe I hope he is, but does not have to be exact. Does my daughter have to be exactly like mommy? Not exact. Because they have their own independent set of koichos. Once we appreciate that, once I realize that, so then it's altogether different. Then I have respect for the next person because I realize that they may have some differences. Husband and wife, they both came from a different place. The whole reason why there's misameach chosam v'kala. Why? Why is there such shilas? A person writes in the earlier tshuvas. There was a Rav that played music. I don't know exactly what he played, but he played one of the instruments. So the Rav needed a little extra money. They don't always get paid what they should. Interesting, though, the Yehuda says, Im ein kemach ein Torah. If you don't pay the Rebbeim enough, the Moros enough, ein Torah. It will eventually affect the Torah Kedosha. So he asked, can I be a musician? I'm going to paskin shilas in the morning. I'm going to give the daf hayomi, and I'm going to give over here. And then by the chasna, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and play the drums. So you're allowed to do it. Answer is, b'shas adchak, yes, a person could do it. Simchas chosam v'kala is the biggest thing in the world. Take a look how the Chachomim in the Gemara and Ksubas, take a look how they were misameach chosam v'kala. They would do anything. They'd do a handstand. They'd walk on their hands. Why? Because the basic idea is that an ish and an isha, no matter what current day society has to say, are two separate, distinct entities. An ish and isha, a man and a woman. How do they come together? How is it possible? He has this and she has that, and they're all together different. The components are different. Elamai, through simcha, everybody is joined together. Through simcha, everybody's happy. That's why there is such an inyan of the Sheva Brachos, in which the Bnei Yisachar says, the Heilige Dinaver, that every day of Sheva Brachos impacts on that day for an entire life. Every Monday, every Tuesday evening is impacted by the original Sheva Brachos of Tuesday night. So how important it is that a person realizes, Shalom. Shalom is husband and wife. That's the prototype. Where there is shalom, then the children will be b'shalom. Then eventually they will go out and their friends will be b'shalom, and they will marry and they'll be b'shalom. However, it takes a tremendous amount that a person has to know. The key is Mechila. I'm mochel you. I don't hold on to it. Before I go to sleep at night, I'm mochel everybody. I don't go to sleep not talking. I had one time a couple. So they said when things get upsetting, they have a good thing. They don't talk to each other. Adarabba, you should talk. In fact, it's important to keep a line of communication open. So I said, is there anything going on right now? He says, well, I tell you, Reuv, I wanted to discuss it with you. We haven't talked for 8 days. 8 days? Is that too long? I said, well, I'll tell you the truth. One of those 8 days is Shabbos. Did you talk Shabbos? We were civil to each other. But did you talk Shabbos? No. You didn't talk Shabbos? Shabbos is Shalom. Shabbos is a source for all the other days. Hayom Rishon Shabbos, Sheni Shabbos, Shlishi Shabbos, Reviv Shabbos. It's all carried on from Shabbos. That's the Makar Bracha. You're not talking? I said, well, you want to discuss it? I said, no. Go home and discuss it with your wife. Say hello to her. Say Shalom Aleichem. You didn't speak to her for 8 days. Maybe you were in California. Maybe you were in Eretz Yisrael. Now talk to her. Give her Shalom. How important it is. Interesting. When a person has to stand ground. First of all, any machloikas in the world. Ko machloike shi l'shem shamayim soifa liskayim. Oh, liskayim. Says a great vision Rebbe. What does it mean, soifa liskayim? Anything that I think I'm doing l'shem shamayim. I'm going to machloikas l'shem shamayim. I know which machloikas they get involved in. This is l'shem shamayim. Soifa liskayim. As long as I think I'm l'shem shamayim, it will never end. It will go 10 years, 20 years. A person will put it in that tzava. My eneklach should make sure to carry on this machlokes. It's a l'shem shamayim machlokes. Sefer liskayim. A person has to know, unless there was a psak fun a gadol b'Yisrael that there should be a machlokes, there is no serious, no reason, no legitimate, no logical reason why there should be machlokes. So it's interesting. Tachas asher kinei lelokov. A lot of times there's a machlokes because a person feels that they have the right to be a kanoi in certain areas. So I'm going to start a machlokes. I'll start a machlokes in the community, chas v'sholem in the shul, in the place. I'm going to start a machlokes because that's it. I want to open up a business. I'm going to start a machlokes. Chas v'sholem. Sometimes there is a reason when a person is emes. The great Rav Shaul Kassin, he lived back in Syria. He was a very great tzaddik. He wrote numerous svarim, wrote some svarim on tshuvas and hoichin yonim, was a makubal. He was walking home one night, Rav Shaul Kassin, back in the old country, and he hears out of one of the homes, one of the gevirim in town, very wealthy, he hears that there's certain music that's going on. Music that is not Jewish music. Music that is far from our world, far from our culture. We know what the Talmud says about music, foreign music. Acher, Elisha ben Avuya. What happened to Elisha ben Avuya? Why did he go off? Look what he could have become. How great he was. What happens? Elisha ben Avuya walked in, saw somebody learning. Excuse me, what are you learning? You're learning Choshen. You don't have to learn Choshen Mishpat. I can see you're not going to become anything. You don't have to worry. Don't learn. Better to go out of the base medrash and leave. Elisha ben Avuya. How did he turn out that way? They listened to some Greek songs. Take a look at the Mefarshim. Ayin. Greek songs. Interesting. Very interesting. Music has to be pure. Music has to be tahor. Has to be kadosh. I discovered, somebody sent to me, the Alter, the Heilige Alter, had his own music sheet that he made, a niggin, and he used to sing the Musar to that niggin, and to have the music sheet with the words. To Sefer Tenuas HaMusar has the notes. When they sang Musar B'Spilus, not too much of a niggin. However, there were notes, because they didn't want anybody to improvise. Chassidus has the same. Sheet music, that everything should be bidiyuk, the way it was according to Sorah. So Rav Shaul Kassin, he goes by, he hears that music coming out of the windows. He couldn't take it. He was afraid. Number one, he was afraid that chas v'sholem, there could be rikudim, there could be dancing, not the dancing that we know, not dancing that is mutter. He got very nervous. So he went right in, uninvited guest, walks in, sees what's going on, hears the music, takes his stick, starts to punch out all the lanterns, all the lights in the whole place. Place is dark. People got scared. Everybody left. Party's over. Reb Shaul Kassin went home. He went home. About half hour later, the Gvir, full of anger, comes in looking for Reb Shaul Kassin. He comes in, he sees the glima, he sees the coat, the rabbinic coat of Reb Shaul Kassin. He takes it, he rips it to shreds. Rav Shaul watches him, doesn't say a word, does not say one word. He leaves. The next morning, word got out in town. So the Talmidim came, Yelamdelu Rabbeinu, tell us why you didn't say anything. The night before, you're going, you're makbid, and you're punching out all the lights in the whole place. And then the next day, what happens? He comes, he tears up your coat, you don't say one word. He says, when it is the kovod of Hashem Yisparach, when it is chas v'sholem Mechila Hashem, then I'm makbid. Personally, he tore up my coat. So what did he do? Tore my coat. Eventually he'll be able to afford a new one. Nothing hurt. Nothing happened. That is the way that a person has to see the things that go on in life. The ability to move forward, not to get lost in things that happened before. A person has to know, constantly move on. Eshes Loit. Eshes Loit. What did she do wrong? What was her big Aveira? She turns into a pillar of salt in Tziv Melech. What did she do so bad? What Aveira do we read about that she did that was so egregious? Interesting thing. She looked back. Hashem said, don't look back. Vatabe, she turned around and looked back. She didn't know how to move on. Says the Heilige Slonim Rebbe that her problem was that she did not realize you don't look back. You let go. You continue on in life. You do not be bothered by something that happened because it just will hang on you. You have to be able to start a new day every morning, wake up and begin anew. The Sheres HaPleita Yidden that went through so much, that saw what human eyes should not see and heard what human ears should not hear. And they came out. What did they do? They didn't get lost. They didn't stay in the old times, in the lager, in the concentration camp. They marched on. They built up all the centers of Yiddishkeit, the yeshivas, the centers of Hasidus all over the world. They marched straight out of from the Auschwitz, Treblinka, Birkenau, Dachau, Buchenwald. Where'd they go? Eretz Yisrael, built Ponevezh, in Brisk, in Tels, in Klosenberg, in Satmar, in Ger, in Bobov, and all the unbelievable Mekoimus Hakdoishim. That's the way a person has to look at it. Did anybody here, Chas v'Sholom, go through I don't know if there's any Sheres HaPleita in here, but did anybody go through something on that level? No. But yet, they're able to go further. Whatever a person goes through in life, they should always be on the level to say, I'm letting go. I'm going to try to adopt the fact that today is a new day. A day is a new day. Every neshama comes back in a new life today. I have to be able to get rid of the old things. I have to get rid of the things that are bringing me down. It's a training. Also, interesting thing, during the 3 weeks, of course, a person lets go. A person learns how to let go. We learn the important things in life. We learn what is a person should dwell on, what their thoughts should be. Chorban Beis Hamikdash, Tikkun Olam, how I have to do tshuva. That's what I have to do. I saw Daven Mincha, and I saw outside they had a box, Tikkun Chatzos. They're about the whole information about Tikkun Chatzos, how to fare Tikkun Chatzos. It's a wonderful thing. It's unbelievable. So it says, Nisa levaveno kapayim el kel bashamayim. Aposuk Eicha. Nisa, we should lift our hearts in tefillah together with our hands to Hashem. So the Gemara in Tainus says, what does that mean? What does it mean, lift the heart with the hands? A lot of times a person davens. So chas v'sholom, when they daven, they're not thinking about it in their heart. Mitzvahs anoshim l'muda, mitzvah v'lachutz. They're just saying the words. So what a person has to know is the heart has to go into the tefillas. The heart has to go in to push us to a deeper level of kavanah. So the Bris Avram says that Erev Yom Kippur, a lot of people ask Mechila from each other. And they extend their hands. This is a recording. Okay. One shaila I get, without a question, before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, are you allowed to send a text to ask Mechila? You could ask, am I allowed to send a text? No, are you allowed to send a text to ask Mechila? No! You can send out a group text. I don't know the technique, I don't know the technical part of it, but maybe you could send it out to 1,000 people. Yomorchel me, yomorchel me, yomorchel me. I send it to everybody. Yomorchel me. The mechila is that a person goes with their heart and their machnia, and they said, Efsher, I did something that might bother you. Can you please be moichel me? That's all a person has to do. So the Bris Avram says that Erev Yom Kippur, a person has to make sure that they say this in the correct way. That when they say it, they really mean it. And if they don't, chas v'shalom, they maybe should go and ask Mechila a second time. A very interesting incident happened where someone had done something wrong, something not right to a Gadol B'Yisrael. And the individual came and asked the Gadol for Mechila. And the Gadol said, I'm moichel you. It's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. I'm moichel you. He says, but Rabbi, I don't, in my heart, I don't feel that it's right. In my heart, I don't feel it's enough. You're a Gadol. It's a Kavod Torah. I don't feel that I have enough just by you being moichel me. So the Gadol says, okay, the only thing I could suggest is go to the Aron Kodesh, open up Aron Kodesh when nobody's there, ask Mechila from the Rebbeinu Shalom. In that way, you'll have Mechila. Once he had heard that, he had no rest, because he realized that insulting to a Gadol, insulting to somebody who has some chashivas, it's not so simple. It's not so simple. You have to go open the Aron Kodesh and ask the Borei Olam for Mechila. Another interesting thing. Vayiftach Hashem es pi ha'asoin. We had by Bilam, right? So Rashi explains that the donkey, the chamor, started to be mochiach, started to tell Bilam a thing or two. He gave him musar, and Bilam got ashamed. It was terrible. Bilam couldn't take it. Here I got my donkey, and my donkey's giving me musar, and I'm supposed to be somebody of stature. So he got very upset, and Hashem Yisparach took his part. And the chamor had to answer to Hashem because he was mevase Bilam. The question is, what are we talking about? The cover of Bilam, number one. If somebody would have come and be mevase him, a king or a prince or somebody else, we could understand that, okay, he had bizyonis, he had embarrassment. But who embarrassed him? The donkey. Not only that, it was chus miderech hateva. The donkey starts to speak, starts to talk. So what's that? It's nothing. Any intelligent person would realize, hey, put two and two together. What is it? It's min hashamayim. The donkey's not speaking. All of a sudden he became a donkey, a chacham. It's not that way. It's that the donkey is speaking min hashamayim. From his throat is coming out the words of Hashem. So why did Bilam get upset? What was the bizayon? There shouldn't have been a bizayon at all. Interesting. It doesn't matter what we think is a bizayon. If Bilam took it as a bizayon, if his donkey wasn't nice to him and he was embarrassed by it, Hashem takes the part of a person that is embarrassed. Sometimes an individual gets insulted and they're upset. So what do? They're going to show the other person, they're going to embarrass them. Bifar Hesia will even be better because then I'll have an oilam that will see the person's true colors. Asa midyaraisa. Asa midyaraisa. In some cases of bizyonis, we have to be moichel anything. No matter what happens, a person has to be moichel. The worst of the worst, a person has to be moichel. But if someone was mevase asperabim, it is a shaila whether there is a chiyuv to be moichel the person. Of course, we should be moichel the person, but there is a shaila. So we see how important it is. If Hashem was worried about Bilam's honor and who's Bilam altogether, yet, because Hashem is worried about Bilam's honor, the donkey has to listen. In the time of the Heilige Reb Chaim Tzanzer, so there was a Talmud Chacham that built a Beis HaKnesses. Now, you can never tell why a person gets upset, but there were certain people that didn't want him to build a Beis HaKnesses, didn't want him to build a shul. So they were mevazeh him. And they even took stones one day, and as much as we cannot understand it, they started to throw stones at the shul. So they came to the Divrei Chaim. The Divrei Chaim wrote a tshuva on it. How is it possible they could be mevazeh Hashem? How is it possible? They came to Hashem's house and they made such a bizayon to Hashem. He couldn't take it. And he writes a whole tshuva about what happened. Even the daughter of Acher, when she came and said who she was, even Chachamim were able to understand her and protect her, even though even though she was the daughter of Acher. And so the Divrei Chaim talked about the bizayon and what has to happen, what the people have to do to ask from this Talmud Chacham, Mechila. I find it a fascinating tshuva by the mere fact that what did the Talmud Chacham do wrong? He built a shul. I could say if the person built a stadium, if they built a theater, if they built something, maybe Sogas Gavul somewhere. But what did they build? He built a base of Medrash. We see that the Chachamim constantly were worried that there should not be the Eish of Machloikes anywhere in this world, no matter where, no matter how. Interesting, two brothers came to me. They were in a huge Machloikes, and they had a business together. The business was always successful, but the day that they started with Machloikes, they couldn't get together with each other. They didn't ask each other different decisions. Sometimes they would give an answer that was exactly the opposite. And buyers and people, investors, started to lose some of their trust in the business, and it went down and down and down. The two brothers came to me and asked if it is possible, could I make shalom? And I will always be open. Anybody that wants to make shalom, I'm always open. As long as people are sincere, they want to make shalom, I am open. In the entire world, on the who's ever viewing this tonight, I want you to know my good friend. I have the zchus to see him together every year, and he does his work b'mesiras nefesh, and he should continue. Mechila choil mitoch hachoven ruchnis and gashmis. It's a simcha to see you. Who's ever watching, I'm here to make shalom, and I love to make shalom. I one time made shalom, I'm not sure if we ever shared it, where it was at the end of the road. I'm going to say it over, b'kitzur nimratz, just in case somebody didn't hear. People asked me to make shalom. So there was one couple that could not make shalom, a young couple. I got the call. It was their, whoever the person is. He said they will, like you, they're going to go, lo alena v'kol beis Yisrael forget. They would like you to be the one to give back each other's belongings, whatever he bought for her, whatever gift she bought for him, that they give it back. They would like me to be the one that they return it to. I have about as much cheshik to do that as I have to, what can I do? If that'll be at least done peacefully, I said, okay. They came in. First, the young woman came in, the wife. She put on the desk. I had to clear off the desk in the study. She put on there whatever he gave to her, the necklace and this thing and that thing, and the whole desk is filled with his junk. What do I want this for? What do I need this for? Then she put a siddur, bought the siddur, the old Korban Mincha siddur, used to be the minhag to buy. She put the siddur that he bought for her. I guess it was done in haste. It's a beautiful siddur. I would not look at anybody's anything. Doesn't matter to me what they could put down gold, they could put down silver, they could put down rubies, they could put the nicest thing. I don't have interest in it. But a sefer, I have interest. The siddur, I never saw anything like it. I was too curious. Sakrotas, I had to look at it. I open up the siddur, and I see there are a lot of little tabs inside. They put like a sticky paper she put inside. By several different places, I saw it. There were tears that had stained the ink. B'mispalo, parnosa, by the tefillah, parnosa for my husband, my dear and beloved husband, that he should have it easy, that he should have parnosa, make a livelihood, then it should be easy for him, because I know how it bothers him when he does not have enough money for us. Then the next time, my husband should be health. Everything should be good for him. He should not be bothered, and he gets headaches, Hashem. Ka'ev Rosh. Hashem, please take his headaches away. If somebody has to be ill, let it be me. And I see one page after another. By the Harachamon. She made her own Harachamon. Harachamon Yivareches Bali. The way she talked about her husband, I thought she's talking about a king. And I saw all the little slips. I closed the siddur. Well, about an hour later, knock on the side door by the study. Vayovoi Melech HaKovod. The husband comes in. Husband walks in. He's bringing all of his shalach manos, all the things that she gave to him. He greets me, and I said, listen, before we start the whole, minig, whatever this is, before we start it, could I ask you a favor? Yeah. What would you like, Rob? I would like you to read something. I just saw something, I'd like you to read it. I said, please sit down. I gave him a seat at the table. I gave to him the siddur, and I said, I'd like you to take a look through it. He starts to read the siddur. He gets to the first shtickle Torah, the first of the Tzetlach. And when he reads the Kvittel, I saw already, he began a little crying. I said, I got to go out for a minute. And I went into the kitchen, I closed the door. I came back, he was in tears. I said, I tell you the truth. I don't know what happened. I don't know what went on between you. I don't know what happened over the time. But I can tell you one thing. I would not give back this siddur to you that your wife should not continue her tefillas. Because mi yodeya, what you have in life, whatever you have good in your health, and whatever you've achieved, isn't because of her demos. I wouldn't give this back for anybody, for anything. You keep this siddur and give it back to her. He said to me, Rav, she gave it back to me. So I said, so what? Who said you have to take the siddur? Who said you have to take the necklace? Who said you have to take? And I began to list every item. You got such an Eshes Chayil, and you're going to let her give you back the siddur? He started thinking about it. Went back and forth. What should I do, Rabbi? I said, I tell you what you should do. You should take your own siddur and be mispala for her. Maybe over the years, you should have been mispala for her like she was mispala for you. Maybe then it would have been in vegefen, ve'in vegefen. Then it would be a dover noah. If I were you, I'd get this lady back. I would make shalom. You don't need a get. I can tell you for sure. What you do need is a little bit chizuk. What you do need is an emissary marriage on the yesodus of Torah v'yira, according to Das Torah. That's what you need. Sometimes people listen. Sometimes people listen. It took a lot of work in the help of good people. They never went for their get. The tremendous shalom that ensued from a couple that was standing by the Mizbeach. What could I say? A lot of times individuals say, no, I have a right. I have a right to be angry. Maybe you do have a right to be angry. What does the Talmud say comes from a person that's beroiges? A person gets angry, a kaptan. What do they have? They got nothing but the anger. That's all they walk around with in life. Oh no, I'm angry. Give me an award. Give me a dinner. Give me a plaque. I'm angry. I'm a kaisen. I'm a bigger kaisen than you are. I outdo you in gas. Don't worry. What do they have? They have absolutely nothing. The individual that can say, I'm mevater, then it's altogether different. That's halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa is that a person is not allowed to stand and to say, I'm not Michael. And I don't care. There are some times when it is very difficult. People in therapy have come and they've asked me, is it true? My therapist wanted to know, is it true that I have to be Michael? Or am I allowed to stand my ground? Do I have to be Michael or not? Very interesting. Many, many situations, and I'm not saying all, but many situations a person has to learn the art of Mechila. They have to be able to get over it. Let bygones be bygones. A person can never tell what there is going to be in life when a person will want to have shalom. And sometimes, chas v'shalom, it could be too late. Do I have to tell you the number of people that tell me that the person is no longer here in this world and they want to ask Mechila? What do? Oh, there is an Eitz in Shulchan Aruch. We can do it. But wouldn't it be better if the individual knew the halacha of when to go and ask Mechila, of to ask while the individual is still here, still in this world? Interesting, Chacham Ovadia cites in Hilchos Slichu Mechila that a person is mechuyev, habal v'ha'isha yimchalu zelo zeh kol asher chatu, that a husband and wife should be mochel each other for whatever they did, kelape hashana, over the years. Oh, Roy v'nochaim, one more, that a person should ask Mechila, children from their parents, and parents from their children. Parents from their children. A Rebbe from his Talmud. A Mora from her Talmida. Is it a sign of weakness? One teacher asked me. I said, no, it's a sign of strength. Yes, somebody, Mechila, do you understand how the Talmud or the Talmida will look at you forever? You ask them, Mechila, you realize that maybe you wronged them. Boss of a dumb. Anybody can make a mistake. What is that? Admit that we're human beings? Yeah, admit that we're human beings. We're boss of a dumb. We say it a few times a year, right? I got flesh. I still admit that I'm human. I may be like a malach, but I'm human. One time in Yidot Achronot, so they wrote, I was able to, with the help of a lot of people, get a kidney for a young woman that came in from Eretz Yisrael. And it was a whole back and forth. What happened? They got very upset because when they came to me and they saw that I'm a little bit from, a little dati, they thought for sure none of them were dati. None of them were religious. So they came in with her. They need to get a kidney. And they came and they left. They thought, I don't know what. And they never called back. And I agreed and I said I'd raise money. And we were talking about making something. And they never called back. 2 weeks later, they called back, and they came. 10 people came into the dining room, and they sat at the table, the same 10 people. I said, you were here 2 weeks ago. I already made plans. I already started. Where'd you go? Rav, we came in, and we saw that you're dati, and we knew you wouldn't help us. So we didn't come back. So he says, so why you came back now? Because we called the same person and said, I told you to go to Goldwasser. We did, but he's really religious. I told you to go. They came back. I wish I could tell you. If Irgun would give me 2 hours, I could tell you everything that happened on that. But, Rav Deutsch, I'm not going to beg him. I'll just take you to the end. Everything happened. Azak Kiddush Hashem from the Torah community. It was... what they did for her, what they did for the family, I can't say it without becoming emotional. So at the end, she went back to Eretz Yisrael. She got her kidney. Everything was successful. So Yediot Achronot wrote, Rabbi Goldwasser, kechatzi malach, like a half a malach. I called them up. I said, why chatzi? We may be a malach. We may be like an angel, but still, we're human. As being humans, I have to admit maybe I did wrong. Shaila la'alocha. A Rebbe has to be able to say to a Talmud, maybe I wronged you. Hagoin Rav Moshe Feinstein, Poisek Ador, Moran Hagoin Rav Moshe, once was asked by a Rebbe, I insulted a Talmud. In class, I insulted a Talmud. I insulted him. And the Talmud, unfortunately, I didn't realize it was Barabim. After that, he went off the derech. OTD. Off the derech. I found he's not doing so good. At a meeting of the Hanhola in the beginning of the year, someone said, "But wasn't he in your class?" And he began to say where the person's at. Now he found out. The Rebbe said, I had to go to ask him Mechila. Now that he found out the results, he went to ask him Mechila. The Talmud sat there, bitter, not stum, upset, not angry, bitter, bitter. Afatzorat Yid, because of what happened in class. And so he asked him Mechila. Bocher was pretty smart. He said, I'll only give you Mechila, Rebbe, if you bring the entire class together and ask me Mechila in front of them, because I was embarrassed in front of everyone in the class. The Rebbe left, brokenhearted. Now he understood maybe he didn't do right. He found out it would be approximately $20,000 to bring everyone now grown up from all of their places to gather them together in front of the Talmud and ask him Mechila. He now comes to the Goin Rav Moshe and says, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, am I mechuyev to spend $20,000 to ask Mechila? Hagoin Rav Moshe smiles and said, $20,000? I'm going to ask you a question. If you were on the steps leading to Gan Eden, and there chas v'shalim, they would bring up this Aveira, and you couldn't get a lawyer at that time for $1 million, do you think it'd be worth it to pay $20,000 right now to fix it up, to be metakein? The man got his answer. Rav Moshe Kapaskin. He gathered them together. He asked Mechila. $20,000. That's an expensive Mechila. Usually for you or I, it's not a matter of money. Not usually. It's more a matter of putting our feelings aside, being able to say, I have emes avas Yisrael. If I have true avas Yisrael, then I have to stop myself because I have so much love. I'm afraid it's going to... it could go to others. The Heilige Belzer Rebbe, Reb Shalom of Belz, had very interesting ideas in refuahs, in Yeshuas. People used to come to him for certain psychological ills, lo aleinu v'al beis Yisrael, even schizophrenia. So, for mental difficulties and challenges, people came from all over. The Amim, people from the nations came to the Belzer Rebbe, and he accepted them, and he let them come in, and he gave them a Yeshua as well, and he would provide for them an answer and a remedy. That's the Abba that you have to have in your heart. Yes, did that child do something wrong? Yes. Did that child give me Agmas Nefesh? Yes. Did that child give me a run for my money? Oh, 1,000%. But what is to be gained in remembering the hurt? What do we ever have? To remember that that son wasn't so nice to me, or that father or mother wasn't so nice to me, or that daughter wasn't so nice to me. A shaila that I will never ever forget, I saw a while ago. It is impossible for the human mind to think about this shaila. I saw the shaila with all that I have in history from the Shaya in the Kedoshim, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. The shaila was, is it possible that a person should be moichel a Nazi? A Nazi. Shaila la'alocha, 20 mekayros in the tshuva, whether a person could be moichel a Nazi. You ask me, moichel? Moichel. La'alocha, not. La'alocha could be Amalek, could be a lot, be Noikim the Dam and everything else. But the mere fact that there is such a shaila and there are 20 Mekaris on it shows that Khal Yisrael, we are people that are moichel. We are not people that hold something. Life goes on. Years go on. I'll never forget. It was at the closing, Nilas HaChag of Pesach. Nilas HaChag. An elder Yid came over to me after the Nilas HaChag, and he said, "Could I talk to you about something?" I said, "Yes." So he says, "My son, he didn't speak with me in 7 years. And I tried many times to reach out to him. And he doesn't answer my call. And he doesn't want to talk with me. And I send shlichim, and he sends them away. I can't get to him. Rebbe, after 7 years, could I give up? Should I give up? It's agmas nefesh for me. I'm older." He said to me, person should never say, he said, "I don't know how much time I got left in this world." I looked at him. I thought to myself, what happened? What went down? What's in the son's mind? Someone reaches out. Someone cares. They didn't do what Yemach Shemoy v'Zichro la'omei ad mitachas Shmei HaShamayim did. They may have done some things not so nice. They may have done some things that were insulting. But Hashem Yisbarach says, you'll be maver al midosov. You'll be maver on your midos. You'll say, I am right, and that person is 100% wrong. But I am going to look at it like I'm the wrong person, and I'll ask them Mechila. I'll turn the tide. I'll ask them Mechila. You know how that will go? That individual is smart. That individual realizes what the Borei Olam wants from us, to be moichel each other. I have things, and everybody in this base medrash and everybody watching around the world has things. We want Hashem to be moichel us. We want Hashem to be moichel us. All of us. Little thing, big thing, whatever it is. How do I know for sure I can get Mechila? I'm moichel my friend. I'm moichel my son, my daughter, my wife, my husband, my mother, my father, my grandfather. Muzar! A guy came to me. They're not inviting the grandparents to the wedding. Not inviting the grandparents to the wedding. I said, what do you mean? I know your grandparents. My parents said, if they didn't help with the wedding, they don't deserve to come. Interesting. I said, oh, thank you. I'd like to talk with your parents. Please tell them Goldwasser would like to talk with them. They came to visit me. I said, your son told me something. I think he was trying to tell me a joke or something. Not true. He said, you're not inviting your parents. Rav, they didn't help at all. I said, can I ask you a question? I can understand why you don't want to invite them. Because you don't want they should eat for free on your cheshbon. Is that right? Yes. I said, fine. I took out $50. I'm a little cheap. I took out $50. I said to them, I tell you what, for the $50, I would like to pay for their portion. Could they come and eat by you? Rav, it's not the $50. I said, so what is it? The $100? Is it the $200? Is it the $500? They're your parents. What are you going to do? In the future, after 120 years, it should never happen. Everybody, what do you do before a simcha? If someone's in the olam emes, anybody. You go to invite them. Many people leave an invitation by the kever. Some people read it out. They're different minhagim what to do. So you're going to invite them after 120 years. You're going to take over the invitation and go to the matzev and say, listen, Zayde, Baba, will you come? Right now you have the chance. You can have them. Lebedik, live. You don't have to go to cemetery. You don't have to go to Har HaMenuchos. Chas v'sholom. You go and visit them right now. And you say, Mommy, Tati, it'll be our biggest honor to come. Tiferes, the older people. Go. Because of Chilul Hashem. Worse yet, the Chosan and Khal will know your parents weren't there. They'll never forget that. And how about the grandparents? The grandparents certainly will never forget it. So they listen. I'll be Messiah b'dover toy because we're way over. If you let me 2 more minutes. Interesting. So we learned that a person should be very careful. Doesn't matter what the age is. A child, a little boy, a little girl. A little boy and a little girl, a person has to be careful with their feelings. There was a girl that came to the great Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and she was crying. Little girl in Yerushalayim, and she was walking down the street crying. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach saw her and said, little girl, what's the matter? What's the matter? So she said, somebody said that my dress is ugly. My dress is ugly. You tell a little child that lacks self-esteem that their dress or their clothes or their ugly, and a lot of times people make fun of the clothing. She's crying bitterly. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, tell the people who said that the Rav of Yerushalayim, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, said he paskined that is one of the prettiest dresses in all of Yerushalayim. It's only a child. We have to worry about a child. And so, Rabbaran of Belz, the Heilige Rabbaran of Belz, had a minig. He didn't give his hand to anybody who was underneath bar mitzvah. Anyone that wasn't bar mitzvah, he didn't give his hand. So what he would do is he would take either a cloth or he would take a glove and he would give them the hand. But he didn't give his hand to somebody that was under bar mitzvah. That was it. Motzoi Shabbos, the tzibur was coming for Shalom to give him a good voch. There was a boy that had a hat and a coat, and he came. As soon as the Rebbe saw him, he took the wrap, took the cloth, and he put it on. The Gabba got incensed because the Gabba realized that he was trying to fool the Rebbe by wearing the hat like a bar mitzvah bocher. The Gabba said, Shegets, go out of here. He tells this boy, he set him straight. The boy left, he ran out. The Belzer Rebbe was terrified. He said to the Gabba, I want you to go and ask that boy Mechila. You go and ask him forgiveness. The Gabba went out. He left. He went out, and the Rebbe said, make sure he says, Ani moichel, I am moichel you 3 times. He went out, the boy was moichel him 3 times. They wanted to continue now the line in front of the Heilige Belzeru. They all came in front. He was still upset. The Belzer Rebbe still couldn't come to himself. He said to the Gabba, go back and bring the child. Bring him back to me. They went and brought the boy. When the boy came back, the Rebbe gave him a special bracha. He left. The Rebbe was still upset. Tell him to come back. I can't calm down. Bring him back. They ran out. They got the kid back. The boy comes back in. The Rebbe said, write a kvittel. Whatever you want, you write in that kvittel, and I'm going to be mispal. Rabbaran Bell should be mispal for somebody. Special kvittel, not a kleinigkeit. The boy was very happy. He starts to leave. The Rebbe said, bring him back. I'm too upset. Bring him back. They brought him back. The Rebbe said, just because I'm a machmir and I don't give my hand to a child who's not yet bar mitzvah, it's not right that the boy should be so shamed. He told the Gabba to call him back one more time. The boy came back a fourth time. This time, the Rebbe gave him his hand without the wrapping and gave him many brachos. After that, the Belzer Rebbe said, now I'm calm. All of us in Khal Yisrael, wherever we're at, it's an avodah gedolah. During the 9 days, during this time, or whenever this will be viewed, be Mechila. Be Mechila. Be Mechila. Don't work on it. Don't think it through. Oimeh v'oisa. Be Mechila. Whoever you need to be Mechila, whatever you need to work out in your head, work out in your head. Work it out. Time is fleeting very quickly. Be Mechila. Mechila b'chesed, Mechila merachamim. And in that schus, Hashem should be Mechil us. Khal Yisrael. Mika amcho Yisrael goyachad bo'aretz. We should be Mechil and send Mashiach tzidkeinu b'mheira v'yameinu. Amen.
Shem Irgen Shir Termas is Boston. I'd like to give a big yasher character of Goldwasser. Very inspiring Joshua. We don't want to say Harini Meichel L'chol Mi Chutz Mi Shaloi Nodav Shir, so please sponsor a shir. One of the many shir of the summer. Call Irgen Shir Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Have this great schus of Abbas Torah Derabim. We can make use of the donation boxes on the tables in the shul. I'd like to give a big yashikach to the Gross family for sponsoring tonight's shir. Leila Nishmas of Chaim Bar Pinchas Shalom Shalom Gross. He also this week is one of the founding board members of Irgen Shir Torah. I'd like to give a big yashikach to the Kimmel family for sponsoring tonight's shir. Leila Nishmas Isha Chaim Meira Basar Yitzchok Shalom. Yotzei Zainov Teish Mosas Tura B'Tzara Chaim. I'd like to give a big yashikach to the Kalish family for the support of tonight's shir. Leila Nishmas Rabbi Yaakov Yehuda Bar Menachem Mendel. All of us shalom outside to the hay of the sponsors Tura B'Tzara Chaim. Shikar to everyone for coming. Chananya ben Akasha Merotzak Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakis Es Yisrael Afika Hibanim Torah Mitzvah Shenemar L'Noich Chofetz L'Man Sidka Yagul Torah V'Yadeh.